Hello, everyone. Yeah. Well, we're back here, and today we are beyond happy. We're truly excited to let you all know that Approach has just been awarded with the Thomas R. Tillian Community Service Award 2021. And Don and I are currently doing this podcast from Las Vegas, and we're feeling inspired. Although we'll be talking mostly about Boston's gastronomy, which we definitely miss. Our mindset is pretty much back home, I would say. Isn't that right, Donna?
Yes, Victor, that is completely right. Um, we are so excited to be here actually, and we've just won an award, so we're going on a pretty high adrenaline podcast today. But today we have a really cool topic with for you guys. So welcome to Approaching Your Future with your hosts Dana Khan and Victor Ribeiro, where we take steps towards your goals. And today we will be discussing Austin's gastronomy. Isn't that right, V?
Yes, and I'm a huge fan of Boston's gastronomy for so many reasons. But let's emphasize, Boston is a cultural hub, which means that you can find food from all over the world there. It's not something that you can only find in New York City. It's not something that you can only find if you go to bigger cities. I mean, Boston is a huge city, but that's the cultural hub we're talking about. And there's so many interesting things. There's so many interesting places that we'll be sharing here, and I'm truly excited. So let's go, Donna. Let's get started.
All right, let's get started indeed. Um, we have really cool food actually when it comes to Boston traditional food. Some of those include clam chowder, as well as lobster rolls, Boston cream pies. I will be showing you guys pictures in a minute. It's delicious food to find in Boston, and those are generally tend to be traditional foods to Boston. But
Yeah.
as Victor said, we can find a lot of different types of food. Victor actually has a lot of knowledge about the Asian food in Dorchester, isn't that right? In Quincy as well.
Yes, we've been talking about how Dorchester and Quincy um, are lately. I mean, like I've been finding amazing restaurants, and if you're a fan of Vietnamese food, if you're a fan of Chinese food, or any sort of Asian food, that's definitely the place to go. And I have a few favorite options, of course, um, but I'm not gonna get started with Quincy and Dorchester right now because I want that to be the cherry on cake. But Donna, tell me, what is your favorite go-to place in Boston right now? Like when you're thinking about delicious food, where do you go to?
Okay, wow, that's a hard one. I think that if I want like lobster, especially because seafood tends to be very traditional in Boston, I 100% recommend the Barking Crab. The Barking Crab is a restaurant in Seaport, right in front of the of hotel that I cannot remember its name, but it's right next to the Children's Museum, and it's a great but it has delicious crab, delicious lobster, amazing lobster rolls, and I definitely recommend. Apart from that, if you want to find good lobster rolls, I would definitely walk around Quincy Market, um, or also known as Faneuil Hall. Faneuil Hall has a great indoors marketplace in which you can buy different types of Boston foods, but there is where you find amazing lobster rolls for a good amount of money, actually. What about you, V? Where do you like to eat in Boston?
Well, I can tell that like you're definitely a big fan of lobster rolls and seafood. I'm also a huge fan, and I know that there are a lot of amazing options. Honestly, one of the things that I was thinking one of these days is that the best calamari I've ever had in my life is actually in Boston. The best calamari, the best crab, the best fish. It's so good. And there are a few cities nearby. I mean, not necessarily in the same Boston area, but there's this city called Gloucester that is really, really good. If you were interested in buying lobster for an accessible price, you can go to that city. It has like a big fisherman community. But okay, I'm gonna say that my favorite food from Boston right now is from my favorite place in Dorchester. I'm sorry, I'm not gonna leave that as a cherry on the cake anymore. As you can see, I'm giving in my cards. But look, if you are passionate about Asian food, if you like Vietnamese food more specifically, there's this place in Dorchester called Ballet. And what's so special about it is that they actually um, they they get from like most of the food they sell they get from local families, local Vietnamese families. And it's really interesting that in Vietnam a lot of families they have their own recipes of desserts and different types of food. I love their banh mi. Banh mi writes BANH space MI, and ballet, which spells BA-LE, has the best banh mi I've ever had in my whole life, and I'm not even joking. And they have really amazing vegan options if you're vegan. I'm more my diet's more based on it's plant based, but yeah, like I would say, Donna, that's my favorite place. And as you can see, I'm very passionate about that type of food too. But have you ever tried it?
I have actually. Victor was so nice to bring me some of this food from Ballet, and it was delicious. The sandwich that I tried was delicious. I also recommend it definitely. But apart from these, we're gonna name a bit of the Boston traditional foods, so you guys have a good idea of what you can find in Boston in terms of traditional food. Because as Victor said, you can find anything that you wish to find there. Um, we have a big Italian community in the North End, and therefore cannolis tend to be a really traditional food to
Oh yeah.
Boston. Um, I I mean, there's always Italy, which is in Prudential Center, and it's a good place to find good cannolis. But you can also find great cannolis anywhere. Like, for example, Magnolia's Bakery, from what I know, is one of the oldest bakeries in Boston. And I know that they have, apart from cannolis, delicious Boston cream pies, which is another specialty of Boston. Apart from that, cannolis can also be found in different places in the North End. I've actually heard of a couple, Mike's Pastry or Modern Pastry, Nevo Cucina and Enoteca, and Stella are different restaurants that are good for cannolis. And apart from cannolis, we have a really traditional pizzeria in the North End that is like one of the most famous pizzerias. If I'm not mistaken, it's called Regina's Pizzeria, right? Have you been to Regina's?
I actually have. I lived in the North End for quite some time, and Regina's Pizzeria was actually one of my go tos when I was thinking about like good pizza. I mean, like if you're really hungry, that's the pizza you go to. Of course, there are different options that are good for different purposes. For example, if you go to Quattro, you find really good brick oven pizza that you don't even have to go inside of the restaurant. You can order from the sidewalk. And that's super interesting, right? And since we're talking about Italian food, Dana, I just wanted to add that Mike's Pastry does have an amazing cannolis and all sorts of desserts, but there's this hidden gem in the North End called Bova's. And that place is one of the only places that you can find food 24 hours, more specifically, Italian food 24 hours. And it's so good, Donna. Anyone that is in Boston, if you enjoy a little bit of the nightlife downtown and you're still hungry, go to the North End and find some delicious bovas. You will not regret. I promise. Do you agree?
I actually love that. I would love it if you spelled out like Bovas, like Boba or Bova, because that
Yeah.
sounds like a great tip.
It's Bovas. It's actually in our Instagram too. If you guys go to our Instagram page, you guys will see a few of our Boston tips. And the one that talks about the North End more specifically, we mentioned Bovas. So there are a few insights and tips there that you can refer to, and I'm pretty sure you will not regret. I really like Boba's for so many reasons, but I went there so many times that I think that the people working there kind of like got to know me, and they're like, "Oh, there he comes again." I mean, I've always been like a night owl, which means I always sleep late, and there were so many times on the weekends that I'm like, "Damn, I'm hungry," and Uber Eats was not an option. It's sometimes too expensive. So where do you go? You go to Bova's, and you get some good proper Italian food. I mean, midnight food for not too expensive, right? But that's really cool. Other than Italian food, Dana, what other types of cuisines would you recommend in Boston? Because I know there are so many, but tell me more. Like, I want to know how much you know. Um, Give another tip for, let's say, how about South American food? What do you
Oh,
think?
all right. So South American food. South American food in Boston is delicious. I'm gonna say that if you want good Mexican food, I would actually go to the outskirts of Boston to find those hidden gems with their birria tacos and delicious Mexican food. But for example, there's a restaurant I love that has Peruvian food. It's called Puro Ceviche, and it's located in Newberry or Boyle Newberry, if I'm not mistaken. Now it's pretty close to the Prudential. It's a small spot, but it has this amazing ceviche. And also, I recommend that you get the cachapas there. Cachapas is a Venezuelan dish. It's a corn dish. Tends to be eaten for breakfast. But for some reason, they did a fusion of Venezuelan and Peruvian, and they have this amazing cachapa that is 10 out of 10. Also, I love Lolitas.
Wow. Yeah, keep on going. I just love
So
the enthusiasm.
yeah, I'm excited. I love food. So I love Lolitas too. Lolitas is a Boston classic also. It has different restaurants along. But Lolitas has really good Mexican food. I mean, it is one of the places I go to like constantly because I love its food. And for Cuban food, I recently went to Mariel. Mariel is also owned by the same people that own Yvonne's. And Yvonne's is, if you guys don't know, one of the oldest restaurants in Boston. Actually, the building of
Wow.
Yvonne, no, yeah, the building of Yvonne, I think it's from 1862 or 1832. It is an extremely old building, and it's so cool to know that these institutions, this gastronomic institutions, have sustained itself for so long. So definitely recommend those.
Super cool. I mean, like, I definitely know that if people are just looking for options for South American food or even food from Central America, I recommend personally to go to East Boston or Chelsea. They do have amazing places, and there's this place called La Hacienda, which is located in Chelsea. It's one of the hot spots for good breakfast. But the cool thing about it is that you don't pay a lot, and it's all you can eat. And it's a mixture of like Central America type of gastronomy with American foods. I mean, like, that here in the United States, people are huge fans of eggs, bacon, and home fries, and everything like sausage, ketchup, all of all of this included, right? And La Hacienda serves that plus all the interesting South American options. Like, you can actually have a little mixture of American food breakfast with maybe Guatemalan frijoles, which is like black beans. So I recommend going to East Boston or Chelsea anytime if you're looking for good South American food or Central American food for a fact. But yeah, I love
I
the
agree.
I really like the suggestions you gave to like Lolitas is also really good, and it has like such an interesting vibe. It's like good place to go to eat at night or even to go on a date. So I definitely recommend that one too, which is located in Southport, if I'm not wrong, right?
It's located in the seaport, yes, and there's also there used
Seaport.
to be exactly, and there used to be a one in Newberry, but I think it just closed during COVID, but it might reopen. Apart from Latin food, which is absolutely delicious, and you'll definitely find amazing food in Boston. Let's circle back a bit to traditional food of Boston. We have the New England clam chowder. So clam chowder is this like creamy soup filled with oysters and potatoes, salt pork, onion, clams. It's a delicious cream-based soup, and I definitely recommend it whenever you go to Boston. But you can get amazing clam chowder in legal seafoods. Have you tried clam chowder, V? What do you think about it? What are your thoughts?
I personally never tried, although, like I said, I've lived in the North End for quite some time, and I know that the North End is really, really close to the Quincy market. And I know they have good lobster rolls and clam chowder, but no, I've never tried. I've been curious though. I've been curious to know what's all about, and I've been living in Boston for quite a while, so it's kind of embarrassing to say I've never tried clam chowder, although it's one of the biggest things in Boston's gastronomy.
Shame on you, V.
I'm so sorry.
All right. But apart from clam chowder, we have roast beef. I don't know why roast beef is so popular in Boston, roast beef sandwiches specifically, but they are. I've heard that the Cussers is a great restaurant for roast beef sandwiches, as well as, I'm sorry, someone's like knocking on the door, but roast beef is, Custer's is a great place for roast beef sandwiches, as well as Kelly's Roast Beef Restaurant. And you can find all of this information in our welcome guide. Our welcome guide actually has a guide where it has a walkthrough of what restaurants you should go to find what food. So definitely find our welcome guide in our website, approachusa.org, and you will be able to go anywhere in Boston and know everything about Boston. It'll be really good. But yeah, I actually really like one roast beef sandwich in specifically, which is it's from Flowers Bakery, Flower Bakery. It's in front of my house, and for some reason the roast beef sandwich is delicious. Delicious. It has like some crunchy parts and this mustard and horseradish. Like I really like it. But that is about it for today, guys. We were talking about Boston gastronomy, Boston places to eat. As you know, we talked about traditional food, clam chowder, Boston cream pie, cannolis, roast beef sandwiches, as well as cultural foods like Asian food, Hispanic food, South American food. So we definitely recommend you guys to invest into restaurants in Boston. That is probably one of the big investments you do as a student in Boston, eating out. So definitely play your cards right, because there are so many good places to go to. I 100% recommend it. But I
Yeah.
think that's it for today, right, V?
Yeah, that would be it for today. We're keeping it short and sweet, but yeah, make sure to explore Boston's gastronomy. There are so many interesting places to go. There's so many different types of food. Don't be shy actually, or afraid to try. I mean, just because something looks different. Actually, I know for a fact personally, a lot of the most different things that I've tried were also one of the most delicious ones. So we could keep going on and on and on, but let's wrap up for now and just let's make sure people know that Boston has amazing food. And you can go to South End, North End, East Boston, Chelsea, Dorchester, Quincy, wherever you go, you will find proper food. And if wherever you're from too, you might find the food from your country. So this is our main advice. Right, Donna?
I agree, Vienna. Just before I go, I'm gonna add Brazilian food is also great in Boston, and you could definitely go to Fogo do Chão or Gaúcho or Oliveiras, which is delicious. It's located in Somerville. It's also located in East Boston. Amazing for Brazilian food if our Brazilians are listening. But that's it for today, guys. Thank you for tuning into Approaching Your Future with your host Dana Gan and Victor Ribeiro, where we discuss different cultural aspects of life in the United States. Until next Friday at 2 p.m. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Make sure to follow us on Instagram as well, because we post content all the time, which is approach_USA, so that you keep up with the latest updates. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone, and have a great Friday. Enjoy your weekend and stay safe.